Okay, this week and this conversation has flown by, as they all do. And I wanted to talk, as we always do. Anybody who's been listening to this podcast for a while knows that every guest we close talking about joy, because I believe that's our birthright as Black women. It's not lives of struggle, it's lives of joy. And you talk about joy as an energy source. You talk about joy as being generative. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you key into that, particularly in this book, and what wisdom you can impart to our listeners around that?
Yes. So when it comes to burnout, especially, I think we focus a lot of the conversation on what we're doing, right? And we're doing too much of this. We're working, we're overworking, and that's why you're burnt out. But one of the things that I discovered in my reporting and in my personal experience and in my engagements with coaching clients is that for so many of us, we have abandoned ourselves and really left behind those things that brought us that sense of joy earlier in our lives, and we traded them in order to have more time and energy to work and achieve. And so what ends up happening is we over index on the professional achievements, and we find ourselves with all of these achievements and accolades, etc., but we're really lacking, the joyful moments that give life meaning and purpose. And so I encourage people to, going back to that question of what are you hungry for? So many of us are just completely abandoning and ignoring what the inner self is saying. And joy is truly a portal by which you can get to know yourself better, or understand yourself better, because joy is different for every person. You know what? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Lost my pod. Sorry about that. But yeah,
No, you're fine.
so, joy is a way to commune with yourself, to get in touch with yourself, to honor yourself. And it's a pathway to understanding who you are, because what ignites joy for you may not ignite joy for me. And I think that we cut ourselves off from the very energy source that we need. That's kind of the irony of it. When you're going through burnout, you need all the energy you can get. But because we have cut our access and not given ourselves permission to access the things that bring us joy, we're cutting off a really much needed energy source. When you think about your hobbies, when you think about friendships and community and just play, the things that make you happy, that generates energy. When you think about the last time you were truly joyful, you're not joyful just laying there catatonic. You're joyful. You're energized by joy. And so one of my missions, really, especially for Black women, is to help us get back in touch with our joy and to reprioritize it and see it as not something that is indulgent, or that is, a nice to have, or I'll get to that when I'm done with all of my obligations and I'm no longer busy, but really see that as a necessity, a priority, something that is essential for our health and our well-being, because it is.
Yeah, it is. It's everything. Joy is everything. And again, it's just like rest needs to come to the top of the list, so does joy. And that's so tied up in identity and so tied up in the journey of a woman. Like I always talk about, we go through so many stages in our lives, and we build homes and places and structures for other people, for family members, for our job, for our coworkers, for our boss. And the last place we ever come home to is ourselves.
Yes.
And so the purpose of this podcast is to rewrite that narrative. It's like, no. Build a space for yourself. Like, start with you, and everything else will be better. All those other things get better. Find yourself. Interrupt that cycle of like in the later stage of life, you talk to women with beautifully wise women who are like, yes, I've discovered that this is who I am and what I want. It's like, I want to change that. So we're discovering that much younger and keeping that going throughout our entire lives, so that joy is at the center. And to that point, my last question for you is, what brings you joy and how do you protect it?
Well, one of the reasons we're here is because I tapped into my joy. Writing brings me joy. And it's something that, when I asked myself that question several years ago of what was I hungry for, writing and sharing my words publicly was a missing piece. I started my career journey as a journalist, and then I was laid off from a newspaper job and decided that I was going to pivot to entrepreneurship, which I did, and I love that work. But I always thought I would get back to writing, like do some magazine writing or something where I'm sharing my thoughts, maybe in a column, and I have readers who can weigh in or connect with me. And I have this way to, just connect and commune with other people. And so when I was in the middle of the pandemic, going through my own burnout, business was booming and things were great on that front. I had a new baby, etc. But just something was missing. And I told myself, I really want to get back to writing. And so long story short, I had started freelance writing different articles, and I had stumbled upon this burnout beat, and the book was an extension of that came out of that very intentional answering of the call to write again. And so writing brings me joy. I had to reclaim it. It just because it brings me joy doesn't mean it's something that automatically happens. I do write personally, privately, all the time. But in terms of my public writing, it's something that I really do have to prioritize and make room for. But the payoff is so enormous that, we wouldn't be here if I hadn't done that. So I'd say writing is one. Time with girlfriends, friendship is really, really central to joy for me. And I do have to be intentional about that. But I'm fortunate because I have started to kind of identify like holidays that, different girlfriends take over. And so it's always something to look forward to. And I'm even talking to like my very first childhood best friend about us claiming a holiday so we can get together with our kids because we live in different cities. So I think friendship is one, and then just joyful moments with my children because I get to be a child again with them, and they see me in this light that no one else does, and we have so much fun together. I think the way I protect that is being mindful of the fact that they won't be here in this way forever. This is a season of them living under my roof and me having access to them. And so that's truly a blessing and a privilege, but it's not, it's not a never ending one. There will come a day when they leave the nest. And so I stay centered in my awareness and my gratitude of them by remembering that, our time is now and it won't be forever. So
beautiful. How can we connect? And nothing to add to that. How can we connect with you, Amanda?
I'm on these interwebs. I'm online. You can find my website, amandamillerlittlejohn.com. I'm on Instagram and Threads at I am Amanda Miller Littlejohn. You can find me on LinkedIn, but you should be able to find all of my stuff from that initial website. Oh, I'm also on Substack. That's my new writing outlet. So I'm working on a Substack that is taking the principles of this book and conversations about rest and realignment really to the next level. So that's realigning with Amanda Miller Littlejohn on Substack. But yeah, I'm easy to find.
Awesome. And even more easier, we'll have everything for for our audience to connect with you down in the show notes, and grab a copy of The Rest Revolution. Amanda Miller Littlejohn, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Kelley, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you for having me, but thank you more so for the work that you're doing to further this conversation for Black women. It's so needed and so important, and we're so grateful to you.
Yes, and for having people like you to keep it going, right? It takes a village. All of us have to be doing this work.
We got to do our part.
All of us to rest, to find joy, to find some peace, to realign, all the things. Thank you so much, Amanda. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
Same. Bye.